I bought this very fluffy, I'm not sure if it's polyester yarn, the Fleure yarn. It's got lots of fluffiness. And I decided, no, I'm going to knit this blanket. Good day everyone, my name is Mariette, also known as the Boervrou, and welcome to episode 3 of the Crafty Stitches Podcast. Today is January 23rd and I'm coming to you from South Africa, and let's just get right into this podcast. I'm not wearing any knitting today, just my normal t-shirt, and I'm ready to talk to you about a little bit of knitting. I thought that it might be fun to share some of my older finished objects, and I thought I'll share this too with you. So I made this cowl, let me check my notes, in October 2020. It was actually, I think, the third one that I made, and everyone had a little bit of a improvement. And this one was made in a shaped form. I don't know if you can see. So the top part is actually not as broad as the bottom part, so that it can be nice and snug around your neck. And this was made with Ellie Pure Gold double knit in the colorway Griffin on 4mm needles, and I used 193 grams of yarn for this cowl. And then I decided that I want some gloves to keep my hands warm when we go for walks with the dogs in winter time and it's quite cold outside. So I made myself these, they're called gloves, fingerless gloves. This pattern is the Chili Podster gloves. I'll link them down below. You can make them with or without a thumb that opens, but I like this combination of glove with a mitten top that you can close up, and you can take your thumb out and your fingers, and it's got a little button here where you can close it up so that it doesn't fall over your fingers. So this was actually the second pair of these gloves that I made. I made a blue pair in also in Ellie Pure Gold, and it was just not fitting me perfectly like I wanted. So in the pattern, it's a free pattern by the way, in the pattern I think it calls for 3.25 or 3.5mm needles, and I actually knit this pair on 3.5mm needles, except for the mitten top. I knitted this on a 4mm needle because my experience with the blue pair that I made, this mitten top was a bit tight and it felt like it was pushing my fingers a little bit. But luckily I have a friend with a little bit of smaller hands than me, so I gifted the pair, the blue pair. And yes, so I was just telling my friend the other day that I think for this winter I must really add to this collection and make myself a hat in this colorway, like a beanie type of hat, to wear on cold days when going for walks. Then I'll be nice and snug. And for this, oh yes, I forgot to say, for the gloves I used 78 grams of yarn. I think if I remember correctly, the Ellie Pure Gold is 250 meters per 100 grams. So I still had leftovers from the 3 balls that I had of this colorway. And I think this colorway was called Griffin. Cannot remember if I did say that. Right, so that is my older finished object. Let me have a sip of coffee. Okay, so let's continue. Got my notes, let me check. So, yes, I do have, let's say, 2 finished objects. So I finished my table throw that I was making with my mystery yarn. I'm sure you all remember this one. It's featured in every episode so far. Let me see. My hair is everywhere. Okay, let me see. So I started at this point. So I was at this point when I recorded last, and I finished. No, I'm lying. I'm lying. All right. I was at this point when I recorded last, and then I finished the rest up to the top where I cast off on this side, and this is all that I have left of this yarn. So at the end of the day, it turned out that this is a rectangle, and it measures 68 centimeters wide by 48 centimeters in length, and it actually weighs 375 grams. So this is not washed or blocked. I'm not really sure what to expect from this yarn, if it will grow or what will happen with it. So I'll just give it a hand wash and lightly block it and see what happens. And then I'll take the measurements again, and if it changes significantly, I'll definitely add that to my project page on Ravelry. So that's one finished object. And of course, if you finish an object, you cast on another one. But a little bit later about that in cast-ons. So that is the first finished object. And then my second finished object, I'm sure you all know of these because I talk about them in every episode that I've recorded so far. But I actually finished 2 yarn cozies, yarn cake cozies. I made a little bit of a, not an adaptation, but I decided to try and also make them with sock yarn. So I had this leftover yarns from my Naughty Habit Kaiso sock set, and I decided, well, let's just give it a try and see what it looks like and how it crochets up. So I used my leftovers from my sock set, as I said, and I actually made a little colorful one with stripes. I just alternated colors every second row, and I held this fingering weight yarn double. For the 100 gram yarn cake cozy, I used 32 grams of yarn. I've also made the 50 gram yarn cake cozy with the Naughty Habit fingering weight yarn, also held double, and that used up 23 grams of yarn. But I did add this to my project pages on Ravelry, so if you want to go have a look, you can see it there. So that is my second finished object. Okay, so that is the finished objects that I have. So let's move on to whips. So for whips, I still have this Tunisian top-down sweater that I'm making. I did work on it quite a bit this past 2 weeks, and last time we recorded, I've done all of that from the cream down to the pink, and now I think this top is long enough. I'm just not exactly sure what type of border I want to do around the bottom and around the sleeves. So I thought, let me just continue with the sleeves and decide what color and what exactly I'm going to do for a border for the top. So on this sleeve, last time we recorded, I was also at the cream, and I've added that bit, and on the other sleeve I've been at the pink, and I've added all of that. So it did grow quite significantly. I think if I remember correctly, when I put it on, it was about here. So I must now still do this piece and then decide, do I want a 3/4 or full length? I'm not exactly sure. So as I add extra rows of color, I would just put it on and decide when I decide it's a great length, and then stop and decide what edging I want to put around it. So this one is almost finished, and I really hope that by the next episode this will be finished and in the finished objects section. So let's see if I can stay if I can do that. I'm not really going to talk too much about the yarn. It's just cotton yarn, and it's made with a 5mm Tunisian crochet hook and a cable. I did talk about it much more in episode 1 and 2. I guess in 1 I talked quite more about it in episode 1. So if you really want to see more details on it, you can watch that. And yeah, I think that's all that I can say about this project. My next whip is the Emiliana shawl, which is a mosaic shawl. Oh, I do have a picture here. Let me quickly grab it. Just quickly show you again, for those who haven't been here before. And that is the, hope that's in focus. So that is the Emiliana shawl, and it's a mosaic shawl that I'm doing for the Mosaic Mal 2022, hosted by Erika from L'Amour Knots. When I recorded previously, I was there, and since then I've added all of that. So this marker is where I was when I last recorded, and this marker was for the picture that I took, progress picture for the Mal. And I must say, this knit is really, really nice. I'm really enjoying it. It kind of becomes mindless after a while. At present I'm doing a 6-row repeat, and I'm really, really enjoying it, and I'm starting to be able to read the knitting a little bit better and understand where I am when I put it down. But what I've also done for this project, as you see, I did print off a pattern, but I do have Knit Companion on my iPad, and the reason I like using it, it's not always just for keeping place, but I love that I can see how long it actually takes to make something. And that piece of knitting that you see there actually took me 10 hours 10 hours and 14 minutes. So yeah, if somebody asks you, oh, how long did that take, this is a very nice app to have. You must just remember to open it and get it on the project, and then it just counts up the hours for you. Now I think some people wouldn't like to know how many hours goes into something, but I've always liked to know how much time did this thing take me. So yeah, this piece of knitting is 10 hours and 14 minutes. Now I do understand that I didn't know from the beginning exactly what I was doing, so it could have taken a little bit less time, but I don't think you can deduct more than an hour off of that for, I don't even know if you can deduct an hour, maybe half an hour, but yeah, knitting is quite time consuming. I was knitting a blanket for my brother's son. When they were pregnant, I decided I'm gonna make them a baby blanket, and I bought this very fluffy, I'm not sure if it's polyester yarn, the Fleure yarn. It's got lots of fluffiness, and I decided, no, I'm gonna knit this blanket. I knit 10 by 10 centimeter squares. I cannot remember how many squares it was, but I remember that the blanket was 1.5 by 1.5 meters long and broad. And at the end of the day, I think when I calculated how long it takes me just to knit the blocks, it took like 88 hours without sewing them together. And you know me, I love sewing things together by hand. I don't, but that I did. And I'll see if I can find a picture maybe or something and put it in between here so that you can just see what I was talking about. But yeah, sometimes it's not good to calculate in the beginning of a project, because then you get depressed about all the time you still have to spend on it. Anyway, so that's my Emiliana shawl. And I did not say, but I'm using the Ellie Cottons yarn, and currently I'm working with purple, and my second color for the shawl would be the green called Peacock, and I'm doing it on 3.5 millimeter needles. All right. Oh, and it's 4-ply yarn because it's made with fingering weight. Okay, let me have a sip of coffee again before it's icy cold. Right. So my new cast on is, sure you guessed, some socks. I have been missing my sock knitting. I needed something just mindless for on-the-go knitting while running errands and things like that. And I've really missed my socks. So I'm sure somewhere along the line you have seen this color combination before. I actually still have 2 balls of this left, which means that for my size I'd be able to make 3 pairs of socks out of them. And then I think I would maybe have 6 or so pairs of this colorway, but I don't really mind. I really love it. I'm sure you've noticed that I'm into the purples by now. So this is how far I've made my socks. And I'm keeping this yarn in one of my yarn cake cozies. So I just wound up the whole skein or the whole ball of yarn and popped it into the 100-gram yarn cake cozy. And I decided to, for once, do my socks one at a time. I don't know, I just felt like it, so it's no particular reason. And then this pair of socks, as you can see, I'm doing toe up, and I've actually tried on this pair. I've tried the Turkish cast on for the first time. It was suggested by a friend on our knit group and knit night, Zoom knit night. It was suggested to me, and I thought, let me try it. Now I had to try it I think 4 or 5 times before I got the hang of it, and then I unpicked the cast on and I started the sock actually, and I think it looks very neat. I can't really say that I can see a difference between the Judy's Magic cast on and this Turkish cast on, but it's very easy. It's kind of mindless. But anyway, so I tried that and I really liked it. And I've also tried to, on this pair, I've also done my increases with make one lefts and make one rights instead of knit front backs. And yeah, I don't know. I don't know if that's my favorite yet, but I'm sticking to it for this pair. So socks is socks and nobody's going to see it, and I love knitting socks. Okay, so what else can I say about the socks? This is knit on 2.5 millimeter Chaigu needles with my very long cable, and I'm knitting 60 stitches for my size for this pair of socks. All right. Oh, and I will do a gusset and heel flap because it's stand around for this pair of socks. Let me just put that away. I don't think there's anything else I wanted to say about this. No, doesn't look like it. I really love knitting socks on the go, and for that reason I really love Magic Loop, because if you're on the go sitting in the car and you have to quickly get out and go run an errand, you can just drop the needle and just go. With DPNs, it's always getting lost somewhere or falling in between the seats. I always drop them. I don't really like knitting with DPNs. I can't say that I'll never knit with them. I might find them better someday in the future, but for now I'm just sticking to Magic Loop knitting, and I really do love it. All right, so what else is there? That's about it for my projects. I do have a future planning to cast on another project. I actually am busy testing out different fiber contents for dishcloths. I do love the idea of knitted dishcloths, but for me personally, double knitting cotton yarn always gets stinky. Maybe I just use them too much, I don't know, because they don't dry properly between uses. So when I use them in the morning after we had breakfast, and later in the afternoon when I want to use them again, they're still wet. They didn't dry properly, and then they become stinky. So what I found in the past is that I use microfiber yarn for knitting my dishcloths. I'll talk about them more in future, but I now also bought a ball of bamboo yarn to try to knit a dishcloth and see how that dries in between uses. So that is one of the projects that I will be casting on very soon as well. Maybe I must just first finish my Tunisian top, because otherwise it will go to the back burner. Okay, that's everything that I have for projects. Let me just have the rest of my coffee. We also bake cookies and rusks. So you can have a look at that if you like on our online shop. We also added some coffee and coffee beans and some nuts, and there's lots of plans for expanding on all of those things. And then for the patterns that is with the craft kits, we've also separated that, so you can just buy the patterns if you like. Both Yarn Cake Cozy patterns is now available on our online shop as well as on Ravelry, and I've also added them to the shops in bundles where you can get them at a little bit of a better price if you buy the bundle with both the patterns in them. And then just the last thing that I wanted to mention, if you have any problems when trying to buy something in our online shop, please just send us an email. I'll put the email address below. There is sometimes bugs and things that need sorting out as we go. Sometimes you won't be able to check out because of some glitch or something, and then we can just sort that out for you very quickly. And that is everything that I have. Thank you for everybody's support and lovely comments. and things on the previous episodes. It's really appreciated. If you like this episode, please remember to like and subscribe. If you like the video and you press the little like button, that helps YouTube's algorithm to suggest the video to somebody else that might have an interest in a knitting podcast. And then, as I said in the previous episode, I would like to again do a comment question. And the comment question for this episode is, please tell me, with what soap do you wash your hand knits? I thought this very interesting because I've actually looked at a knitting podcast some time ago, and they were talking about all types of wool wash and things that we maybe don't have here in South Africa. And I just always use this woolite that's commonly sold in the supermarkets, and I started to think about, I wonder what other people use to wash their woolens with. I would love to know what soaps you use for your wools, your woolen knits and crochets, whatever you make with wool. Anyway, thank you so much for watching, and until next time, happy crafting. Bye.